All right, into our next topic, man. We're gonna talk about some sports a little bit, man. We haven't been active. I think we're on what this is week 2 of NFL free agency. I want to talk about that for a little bit. Then we'll talk about some basketball as well. But man, a lot of signings, man. What do you think is what would you say is the best signing so far in free agency?
Oh man. Man. Uh well, there's Russ to the Broncos. That spice that makes the quarterback competition in the conference pretty spicy. Division and conference as well. 'Cause conference and division is kind of different in NFL, whatever. Khalil's Mack move hurts me so bad, but we wasn't trending upwards
Glad he
anyway.
got out of that fucking shithole.
Whatever.
It's okay. My team's
Um
doing worse. That's why I'm
uh it's
Brandon.
very surprising that it's not surprising, but it's like very ironic that Aaron Rodgers signs his deal to come back to Green Bay and Devontae is out of there to Oakland, and it's very Tyreek Hill left. That was kind of crazy. Patrick Peterson just resigned to the Vikings. That was kind of crazy.
It's cool. He's
Um,
not. He's a seller. Well, maybe
Matt
worse,
Matt
but
Matt Matt Ryan to the Colts is kind of crazy. I know people are not heavy on Matt Ryan, but he's most definitely
that's a great move for him.
he has a great line. He's a great pocket passer. I never thought that like his production went down because he's not a good quarterback. It just went down because the talent around him hasn't been that great the
Mm-hmm.
past couple of years. I know people say like he's always benefited from having weapons around him, and that may be true. But at the same time, when he does have weapons around him, he produced or whatever. He put up good numbers, and he put his team in position to win. I don't feel like Matt Ryan is that bad of a choice as people are making it. I feel like the Colts have been like wow. I know they wasn't heavy on Carson Wentz, Phillip Rivers, and all those guys. Every time y'all went out and got a quarterback, y'all got a quarterback that was at least playoff potential, like could bring the team, push the team, like thrust the team into the playoff position or whatever. Y'all didn't degress and pick a quarterback that wasn't good enough to, push you guys into the playoffs. So,
Carson.
um,
No, I'm sorry.
yeah, um, but yeah, it's a lot has transpired. We picked up the Bears, picked up Trevor Simeon. He's back. Whatever. Um, uh, let's see. Obviously, the whole Deshaun Watson debacle with the Browns or whatever was kind of crazy. Um, and yeah, it's been a lot, but I think the best story, the biggest storyline I'm more focused on is obviously what Russ is going to do with the Broncos. Him and Judy, it's going to be a crazy connection. He'll have a solid run game, a solid defense, and him and Patty are going to battle 2 times a year now. That's insane. Him and Patty, him and Derek Carr, him and Herbert are going to battle. That's going to be some quarterback duels to watch. I'm very excited to see how that transpires. And I'm also excited to see what Patrick Mahomes is going to do, which I think people are jumping out the window. I know losing Tyreek Hill is like a huge deal, but why are we acting like Patrick Mahomes still doesn't have like a great tight end, a great second? Like he is talented enough to where he doesn't. I wouldn't say he doesn't need Tyreek Hill because I don't want to dismiss the value that Tyreek Hill has on that team, but I don't want to say that like Patrick Mahomes is not going to have a good year because he lost Tyreek Hill, because then you're taking credit away from Patrick Mahomes' talent as a quarterback. So I'm excited to see what he does. I'm excited to see, what is going to happen in the AFC North, because now it's a whole mosh pit. Is Lamar Jackson going to ascend again and take advantage of the changes that's going on? What is Deshaun Watson going to do? Where does Steelers go from here? They just like Ben Roethlisberger is no longer in attendance. Um, What do the Bengals do after making a Super Bowl appearance? So the AFC North is pretty interesting. In the NFC, let's see. The NFC North is obviously going to be like a two-headed race. I mean, we'll see what the Bears do, but it's going to be a two-headed race between the Vikings, who've restacked the deck, and a lot of people on the back from injury. We're going to see what the Packers are going to do. Um, then you have the NFC South, in which we're going to see what is going to happen with the Tampa Bay, right? Because Tom Brady is not ready to hang it up yet. What the Saints are going to do because they still have a talented roster. They just need the right quarterback in place to gel everything together, kind of similar to Tampa Bay. Um, and yeah, I mean it's been a mosh pit of things that's been going on in the NFL. But the free agency hasn't been this crazy past, I want to say 2012, 2013. It's just interesting to see all of these major blockbuster things transpire. And the crazy thing is, usually when these blockbuster things happen, those superstars either get better or exponentially worse than what they were before. Because you know the saying, like, once you get paid, superstars stop caring. I've seen plenty of players go to a different team, got paid way more than they were worth, and way more than what they thought they were going to get, and just yeah. Von Miller got traded too. I forgot where
I didn't
too.
get traded. He was a free agent, so he
Oh,
ended
well,
up
not
signing
traded,
with
but
the
like he
Bills.
he
Yeah, he
signed he
signed
signed
with
with
the Bills.
the Bills or whatever. And that was another thing. They paid him good money for, I want to say 2 or 3 year contract. They paid him good money for just 2 or 3 years. So that means that the Bills are trying to win right now. So yeah, it's been a lot. What caught your eye?
All right, so for me, let me answer my question I posed. I think the best move so far has definitely been Russ to the Broncos. I think the Broncos were a team that I feel like were like the Rams and the Rams before they got Matthew Stafford, and the Bucks before they got Tom Brady. They were a team that was very good and very talented. They were just missing one vital piece, and it was a quarterback. And now they got their elite quarterback. I think something that really stands out is of the top 10, 15 quarterbacks that are in the league, only 3 of them are in the NFC, and
Mm,
everybody else is in the AFC. So I think,
right.
and of that, I really think it's only really for in terms of Super Bowl. I think it's really just a 2-team race to see who goes to the Super Bowl, and it's going to be between the Bucks and the Rams, which is what I had last year as well. Just because Jimmy Garoppolo is still going to be in San Francisco, and regardless of his record in the playoffs, we've seen that when it comes time for Jimmy to actually win you that game, he can't win you the game because he that's not who he is. I remember watching them play the Rams in that NFC Championship game, and there were a lot of passes he threw that should have been picked. Yes, but if you look at that last drive specifically, I think that just basically summarizes his whole career. He could be on a team and get carried and do well enough to win, but he'll never be the reason why you win a game.
Mhm.
And that last drive is a summary of that. But also his game against the Packers, because they didn't even score an offensive touchdown
That's
the
true.
whole game.
That is true. I
The
forgot about
whole
that.
game.
That
He
was
beat Aaron
crazy.
Rodgers without having to score. Like, think about that for a second. And
Yeah.
it's funny because when he threw that interception that he was trying to throw to George Kittle, if you go
Mm-hmm.
back and watch that play, you'll see George Kittle is open. And he's open for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy Garoppolo is just late, and him being late to that throw and late to that read leads into an interception. But it's crazy. He beat Aaron Rodgers without having to throw. Um, don't even get me started on Aaron Rodgers, man. I feel bad for the dude because he signed and Devontae said, "Yeah, I'm out. I'm gonna go rejoin Derek Carr because we've been talking about it for a while. I think this is the best time."
Right.
I don't think he left. He definitely didn't leave because he don't like Aaron. I don't even think he left because he doesn't like his teammates. I think he left just because he doesn't like the Packers organization, how they run it. Just
Mm-hmm.
like how everybody talks about. I think a good example of this is just what Jordan Love, how everybody recognized that in that NFC game, the Packers desperately needed a receiver who could be a decent number 2 option because they were lacking that. And they go and draft a quarterback. And it's like, well, you have Aaron Rodgers. He's going to be good for at least another 3, 4 years. And you're going to go, instead of getting him more help get more targets to throw to, you're just gonna be like, yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and start planning for the future.
Mhm.
I was a little surprised. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little surprised that Aaron chose to stay.
Yeah, I was very surprised.
I
I
had
didn't
him.
really
Go
speak
ahead.
about it too much, but um, I feel like I don't know. Like I don't know if it was one of those situations where the Packers paid him the number that he wanted, and he was just like, you know what, we made the NFC Championship again. Let's see what happens. But I guarantee he wasn't anticipating Adams to leave.
Oh no,
So
not at all. I thought he was gonna go to San Francisco. That's where I had him going. Like people were talking about him going to either the Broncos. I thought he was gonna go to San Francisco just because just like Tom Brady, he's a Bay Area kid, and that's sort of his hometown team. And San Francisco is one of those teams where if you put Aaron Rodgers on the 49ers, they're gonna be my favorites to win the Super Bowl. They would have been just because then you have Debo Samuel and then you have George Kittle. Um, I think his name is Brandon Ayuk. Don't like number 11. He's pretty decent as a third option as well. So he would have had more weapons there than he had at Green Bay, and I
mm,
think he could have also maybe had some leverage to be like, "Hey, Devontae, you might as well come to San Francisco with me. We can really do this together."
mm.
But that didn't happen. So there's that. I think the thing with the Tyreek Hill move, I think what we'll learn is that Tyreek Hill is gonna miss Patrick Mahomes a lot more than Patrick Mahomes will miss Tyreek Hill.
Right.
And I think that's just because Patrick Mahomes is a special talent, especially when it comes to arm strength. That there's not really a ball that Tyreek Hill can outrun from Patrick, but also since they always Tyreek Hill is probably the best deep threat in the game. You can send him all these long developing routes and Patrick Mahomes can sit there, buy a whole bunch of time, and find him and throw it across the field to him, whatever, just get the ball to him. Um, I think I think Tyreek Hill might is going to realize that wow, it's sure I've been great, but it's a little harder when my quarterback's not Patrick Mahomes. Not trying to say Tua's not a good quarterback, but Tua's been a little inconsistent. He's been inconsistent his whole career, and I think this is what year
Injury
three.
prone. I wouldn't even say like
I would say both. I would say both. He's been
inconsistency
injury
kind of comes
prone,
with like
and
the injuries though,
yeah,
because
he's
it's
been
like if you don't get a
inconsistent.
rhythm, it's over with.
Yeah,
Like,
he's been inconsistent. He's been injury prone. So I think this is what his third year, right?
hmm,
For me, and I follow this rule just because this one dude, and I think it's a good rule. This dude, his name is Zach Somler. He runs a podcast called Strong Opinion Sports.
hmm.
And he used to be a college quarterback, so he's really good at breaking down film from quarterbacks. He really understands the game. So instead of watching like ESPN, I usually watch him and him talk about football and everything. Um, he says he likes to wait 3 years before he judges a quarterback, just because he understands that the speed and the complexity of defenses are completely different from college to the NFL. And
And some
so
quarterbacks can peak early, like peak very early on, and they don't figure them out, and then they figure them out, and they're not as potent as they were before.
he likes to give them 3 years just to give them time to really develop and sort of try to figure out these defenses. But I think this is year three, and I think if Tua doesn't show one that he can stay in the lineup and not be hurt all the time, but two, um, if he could be more consistent, I think then he would have proved himself. But I think this is like a make or break it year for him. Like I think if he doesn't do well this year, then I don't think he's a starting quarterback. I think the Dolphins start looking at other options. Um, let's
Damn.
see who else. I think the Deshaun Watson that whole situation is
Look,
crazy.
man, I try to tread softly because it's that's such a
I'm gonna
touchy
talk about it. I'm gonna
situation.
talk about it.
Like,
So I
that's such
think
a touchy
so
situation.
I think I remember he got cleared of criminal charges, but he hasn't he still has to go through the civil like civil courts and everything. I think one thing that people have to understand is when you want like if you listen to Molly talk about first take, him not being acquitted for it on the criminal charge doesn't mean he didn't do it. While that's true, and he could still be found guilty in a civil court,
Mm,
but people don't understand is it's a difference between criminal going for criminal charges and being indicted on a criminal charge and having to settle it in a civil suit. When it comes to being indicted for criminal charges, it has to be beyond reasonable doubt, meaning without any type of doubt, any type of really big holes where you can say, well, maybe there's a chance he didn't do it. Beyond reasonable doubt, then he could be indicted as a criminal. the courts and everybody, the jury didn't feel like that it was going to go like that. Which 22 cases is crazy. Like it would be different was maybe one or two. You could be like, yeah, they're lying. But 22 is like I don't feel like 22 people are lying. It's like
that's an extensive number,
it's too
dog.
many. I mean, I've heard people talk about when the cases started coming out. You could say it's kind of fishy, because they start coming out. The allegations started coming out when he was trying to leave the Texans. But again, at the end of the day, 22 women is too big of a number to just sort of ignore and be like, yeah, all these women are lying. Because
Yeah,
I just feel like I'm not gonna say it's not true because it could always be, but the likelihood that all 22 of those women are lying is very,
yeah.
very slim.
I ain't gonna front. A lot of our stances changed over time because initially we were riding for Deshaun, but then once
I
time
think
progressed, we kind of realized like, nah, this
I
is like a
think
very abnormal
we were
type of
riding for
situation.
him at first just because we heard it was like one or two, and it's like, man,
Right.
not saying they're bitches, but the mentality was, man, them bitches lying. He ain't do shit. But then it's like when you keep getting more and more and more, it's like, oh, and then I understand, you know, people piling on because they feel like there's a chance that they could get some money as a thing, but at the same time, like 20, it's no way in hell, in my opinion, that all 22 of those girls are lying. They could be, but I doubt it. I'm like 99.9% sure that not all of them are lying. But the thing is with the civil suit, it just has to be, it doesn't have to be beyond reasonable doubt. It just has to be a probability that it could have happened. So they feel like there's a chance and there's some type of probability that Deshaun Watson touched these women and did what he sexually assaulted these women, then they're
Mm-hmm.
gonna get a civil suit. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that's what people don't like. I think that's one thing people don't understand, that those two things are handled differently. So like again with the whole, I think OJ is a good case of it because he wasn't indicted on criminal charges, but he still had to give money to the Goldmans just because he did kill well, he didn't kill, but he was real responsible for their death in some type of way. And that just goes back to the fact that because of the glove, you could say there was reasonable doubt that he didn't kill um Nicole and Goldman. But because it was still, sort of around his property, as sort of his ex-wife and all these other things, you can still say it's probability that he was involved in their death. But it goes back to that. So like I still think you can't just say, oh, he had to solve it in civil court. He did it. You can't just say he necessarily outright did it just because in civil suits it's based off of, was there a probability that it happened instead of did it happen without without unreasonable doubt. And so like without unreasonable doubt, he did this. That's criminal indictment. Whereas with civil suits, there's a probability he did it, and so based
Right.
off the probability he did it, that's how much money um these ladies will get. So I think there's that. um what else? I think the Matt Ryan move is a good move for the Colts, just because I know they like their backup a lot, and I think putting Matt Ryan there for 2-3 years gives him time to grow. um but the other thing with the Deshaun situation is, what do you do with Baker now? Because Baker demanded a trade and wanted to be to the Colts, and the Colts kind of said, "Mm, nah,
Nah.
bro, we don't even want you, bro." Matt Ryan, come on. I think, and like nobody is really offering. Like I think at first they wanted the first round pick, but now teams are like, just
I
take
think
Baker off our hands at
I
this
think
point.
Baker would have a good career as Tim Tebow 2.0. Go on a college game day, be an analyst. I know that's
And,
harsh, but I'm
and,
being for real though. He has the personality for it, and on top of that, like even when they were losing, he had commercials. I'm like, how the fuck you get commercials and you're losing?
I
How?
think I think people are a little too harsh on Baker just because if
I don't
you
think
look
he's
at,
terrible, but
I'm not saying he's terrible, but I don't
he's
like
underdeveloped
watching
for sure.
Skip Bayless talk about Baker Mayfield. You would think he's a top 5 quarterback. I don't think Baker is a top 10. You could make an argument for top 15 maybe, but I don't think he's top 10. But the season before last year, he was hurt. Cool, he had an injury with his non-thrown shoulder, which that does affect how you throw the ball. But if you look at how he was playing, a lot of his problems weren't because he couldn't throw the ball with the same velocity because he has an injury on his throwing shoulder. He,
It was
if
it
you listen
was
to, yeah, it's the
intellectual.
mental. If you listen to
Yeah,
Skip Bayless talk about it, he'll be like, man, he just couldn't throw with the same velocity because he doesn't have the strongest arm, so he has to throw with his body. He needs torque to throw. I'm like, it sounds like you know what you talk about, Skip, but you really don't, because anybody who knows football knows that at the end of the day, the problem with Baker is his ability to read defense. It's not his ability to read pre-snap. It's his ability to read post-snap. I'd have to go back and look at this, like show you this clip. But my man Zach Schomler was breaking him down. He was talking about, like he says, damn, I don't know why I keep burping, but he's like, I understand Baker had this injury, but he was like, but most of the problems that Baker, and the reason why Baker was so bad last year, was his decision making and his inability to read defenses post snap. And so he plays this clip where I think they're in like a ace formation or whatever. It's a passing play. They have a tight end running like this sort of speed out, or it's either a speed out or it's out. I know it's some type of route that's going to the flat. And so Baker looks and he reads the coverage and it looks like it's a cover 3. So he's like, okay, my out's going to be open. So he immediately identifies, he knows everybody's running. He identifies that if it's indeed cover 3, my tight end's going to be open. So as soon as he snaps the ball, he's going to throw it to his tight end. He's already made his mind up. Defense rotates it to a cover 2 off of the snap. So now he's not able to diagnose that change. So he still makes that decision to throw to the flat, which is now a bad decision because cover 2, now you have that corner sitting in that flat. Now you have a flat defender there. So it ends up in a pick. And if you listen to Skip Bayless, you would think he knows what he's talking about. But no, that, like, at the end of the day, Skip, his problem is it's his ability. What really hurts him when he was making poor decisions, but really it was his ability to diagnose what the defense was doing post snap. Because if you watch NFL football, you don't understand anything about football, you know that any defense you see from an NFL defense pre snap, 9 times out of 10 is not.
It's
going
not.
to be the
They're
top
giving you a look.
running,
They're giving you a look.
Right. It's not going to be the type of defense they're running post snap. So it's just that I think that's the major problem. But no, I think I remember seeing reports that if the Browns do let go of Baker, the Steelers would pick him up, and I think he'd be a decent fit in Pittsburgh. But I just, it is what it is. At the end of the day, I don't think he's terrible. I still think he's a top half, like a top, better than at least half of the quarterbacks that are in the league right now. Definitely better than Mitchell Trubisky for sure. But at the end of the day, he had a bad year, and nobody really knew. You're really only ever as good as your last year, and he had a bad year from just decision making wise, so people don't want to touch him. Whereas like somebody might want to try to compare him to like Tom Brady when Tom Brady left the Patriots, and that last year was quote unquote kind of a bad year. Tom Brady was still making great.
I'm about to say, nah, he didn't have enough. He didn't have enough.
He didn't have no weapons on that team.
Sources around him, right?
It wasn't a receiver on that team anymore who could go out and win a one-on-one matchup like that. Since they were most of the time they were doubling Julian Edelman. You don't have Gronk anymore, so now you don't really have a receiver who can run those one-on-one matchups, who can make those tough, hard contested catches, and who can really get open and create space and get open. So when you don't have that as a quarterback, of course your performance is going to go down. But that's just my thoughts on that.